Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys, continuing our quest to defund the IRS.
Yep.
Because taxpayers matter. Amen. I like this.
Yeah.
Y'all got to get this. They ought to sell these in the FAIRtax store.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe a little more professionally made, but anyways, it serves the purpose.
All righty. Well, we have several orders of business to take care of today here on FAIRtax Power Radio. The first of which is the announcement of our winners in our If the IRS Made contest.
Yeah.
Now that was fun. We were asking people if the IRS made whatever kind of product you wanted to think of, what would it look like if the IRS made it? And we have our independent panel of judges, totally independent of the Presidential Debate Commission,
That's right.
By the way.
We weren't allowed to pick.
Came up with our winners. And our first place winner in the IRS Made contest is Ted Davis for the tree swing. Now that was imagining. Those of you looking at the video can see what that looks like. Those of you listening on a radio station or the podcast, it was a swing with the two ropes attached to branches on opposite sides of the trunk of the tree, so the swing would have to swing through the trunk, and that's what the IRS would do with the tree swing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So congratulations, Ted Davis, on winning the first place prize. Second place, I'll let you do that one.
Chuck Livermore. And he showed us, he sent a picture of a handgun that had the barrel of the handgun pointing the wrong way at the person pulling the trigger.
Now, being someone who likes to go to the range and shoot, that was my personal pick. I like that one bit. But
yeah, it was.
Our judges said that Chuck Livermore gets second place for the gun with the barrel pointing backwards. And I like this one too. I liked all of them.
Well,
but
they were good. Yeah.
They were all good. And Carl Frankenfeld will be getting some FAIRtax gear as well. The submarine with the screen door on it. Yeah. And it wasn't shown in the meme there, but I bet that sucker also had an air-cooled engine in it, don't you? So there we go. There's our If the IRS Made contest. The tree swing, first place. The gun, second place. And the submarine with the screen door, third place. We'll be contacting all three of our entrants here, getting their addresses and sending them. I'm not even sure what we're going to send them because we've got so much stuff. We've got hats and T-shirts and I think a couple of books and some bumper stickers. All the three of these guys are going to get a pretty good load of stuff from the FAIRtax store. When they had to remodel the FAIRtax store, the couple that was running it kind of semi-retired. Yeah. We had to trim that back and had a lot of excess inventory. So we're going to send Ted, Chuck, and Carl some FAIRtax gear, and no telling what we'll come up with next. Yeah. We'll probably have enough left over to do something else as well.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we will. We have a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, that we do. And speaking of a lot of stuff, this is our bi-weekly trip into Congress.gov.
Oh, yeah.
We have got some stuff in here, what the Congress critters are trying to do to the tax code.
So they go to Congress.gov, and in the search bar, you put Internal Revenue Code in quotes. And when you do that and hit the search key, you come up with all the recent proposals. Well, the proposals for the 116th Congress. Yeah. Proposals to change our tax code. And before you get going, I did a quick calculation this morning. There's 2012?
Correct.
2012 proposals. This is just for the 116th Congress.
Yeah, that's how many hits you get back on the search. You bring back some resolutions. Not everything is a tax code proposed change. Most of them are. Yeah. And just about all of them have a lobbyist behind them.
And it works out, if you figure out how many days they've been in session, works out to, and they've been consistent, right about 9 proposals each day they're in session to change our tax code. That's a sincere, fortunately, only a few of those will become law, but still, there's this quest on the part of the people in Congress to incessantly change the tax code. No stability. This is a big problem. Mm-hmm. So what goodies do we have this week?
Hang on just a second. Next week's, a little teaser for next week's show as well, we're going to be looking at some of the stuff that actually did make it into the tax code. Some ridiculous things that are currently in the tax code. What we're talking about here with Congress.gov are proposals, some of which will make it, some won't. But we're going to look at some really crazy stuff that's in the tax code, which goes away with the fair tax, by the way.
That's right. All this nonsense is a thing of the past with the fair tax.
Okay, let's dive in here. The first one is, and these are kind of in the chronological order from date of introduction. This was introduced a couple of days ago. H.R. 8530 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide for energy opportunity zones. Again, there's no text with these things. I can't
doesn't
really
give any
figure what that
details.
is. Doesn't get any details. We don't have the text on it, but they're looking to provide energy opportunity zones, which means some places get economic stimulus and others don't. That's picking winners and losers with a tax code.
Yeah,
something we have. And you want to talk about picking winners and losers with a tax code? Our second one, H.R. 8475, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to temporarily increase the deduction for certain expenses of elementary and secondary school teachers. Now, I am all for elementary and secondary school teachers. They have a tremendously hard job that I wouldn't want. I'd last about 15 seconds as a school teacher. Now, you were a teacher.
Yeah, for about 25 years. Yeah, so, and I can tell you, because I also in-serviced adults. High school students and even elementary students are a lot easier to work with than adults.
Aren't they? Well, I tell you what, it's almost like a war zone in some of these schools today. But again, they're picking winners and losers. Again, nobody in their right mind would not want to do nice things for the school teachers. But why do they get a tax break that others don't? I mean, firefighters, police officers, helicopter, the people who fly the jump plane at the drop zone. I mean, those guys should get a break too.
There already is a section in the tax code of, I remember doing this as a teacher and a school administrator, Form 2106, employee business expenses. If you spent money, your own money, as part of your job, you can deduct some of it. So I'm not sure why they need this. It's already in there.
Okay. Moving right along here. H.R. 8473, a proposal to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to consolidate health accounts into Medisave accounts and for other purposes. Now, I don't know what the difference between a health account and a Medisave account is, but I have no clue why they're putting that in the tax code.
That sounds like an HSA, health savings account. I mean,
could be.
They already have that stuff.
Here we go. This is from the Senate side, 4783, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide a credit for economic activity in possessions of the United States. I guess that's like Guam and places that are not really states, but they're kind of under the control of the United States government. So you're going to get a tax credit if you live in one of those places, but not if you live in another place. More picking winners and losers. Isn't that cool? Now, here's cool. This is another Senate bill, 4780, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide for qualified Hurricane Laura recovery opportunity zones.
Just Hurricane Laura?
Yes. Well, there's another one headed to basically the same place that one hit.
Yeah, by the time this program
airs, it will have gone through again, so they'd have gotten two of them. So there'll probably be another one, and this one's what, Delta? They had to go into the Greek alphabet. There have been so many hurricanes this year. But it's interesting that they're talking about opportunity zones. Now, exactly an opportunity zone, I guess you get some kind of...
I wonder, because the president has created some economic opportunity zones, and they seem to be doing well. So apparently, if it works for one person, the other people want to jump on the bandwagon and use the same nomenclature.
Well, I've got a really good idea.
Yeah.
Why don't we turn the entire country into an opportunity zone by passing the fair tax?
And that's exactly what would happen. All right, the entire country of the United States of America would be a grand opportunity zone.
Now, here's another one, the Senate Bill 4775. It's called Delivering Immediate Relief to America's Families, Schools, and Small Businesses Act. There's a name for that, too. H.R. 25, the fair tax. Of course, this bill comes from the Senate side, which there is no fair tax bill in the Senate this session. It's kind of disappointing. Yeah. But this Delivering Immediate Relief to America's Families, Schools, and Small Businesses Act, guess whose bill that is?
McConnell?
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
So, Senator McConnell, you kind of got a lot of power up there in the Senate. Why don't you introduce the Senate version of the fair tax and get behind it and make it happen?
That sounds like it's his response to Nancy Pelosi's plan for the stimulus bill.
Oh, could be.
Who knows? They're always playing games. They're
right
playing
along.
games with our tax code. That's the problem.
H.R. 8439, proposal to amend the Internal Revenue Code to exclude from gross income any interest paid on an overpayment of tax. Now, wait a minute. How do you pay interest on a tax that you've overpaid? You pay interest on the penalty that you underpaid. Oh.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of hard to overpay the fair tax.
Yeah.
But when you do, by buying basic necessities, you get the rebate, the prebate. Okay? So it's automatically taken care of.
So I guess if you're going to exclude from gross income any interest paid on overpayment of taxes, you are encouraging people to overpay their taxes and pay interest on it. Who knows?
Yeah.
So what kind of crazy things are
Good
here
luck
in the
with
tax
that.
code? H.R. 8418, a lot of goodies in here this month, to amend the Internal Revenue Code to temporarily increase the educator expense deductions to facilitate the purchase of personal protective equipment and cleaning supplies during the COVID-19 pandemic. So I guess if educators are having to provide their own PPE, they're going to get a...
Again, that is taken care of in the section on employee business expenses. They don't need another proposal. It's in there, like the old commercial used to say.
Well, I guess to temporarily increase the educator expense deduction.
Yeah,
so they're going
well,
to get a bigger break than anybody
I was an
else.
educator, but I don't think we need to be singled out.
Okay. Couple
right.
more here real quick. H.R. 8411 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to repeal fossil fuel subsidies for oil companies and for other purposes.
Oh.
I did not realize that oil companies were getting fossil fuel subsidies.
Yeah, they do.
And now they're trying to repeal that.
There's some people on a certain side of the aisle that don't like that.
Oh, well.
All right.
One more.
One more.
S74, check that, 4754, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code to establish COVID recovery bonds and other purposes. Now, some out there may be old enough to remember the war bonds.
Yeah.
They want to get away for the federal government to get into people's pockets and, make loans to the government by selling these. In fact, I guess they still sell U.S. savings bonds, treasury bonds.
Exactly.
They have that all the time. So now they're going to add another one, the COVID recovery bond.
And that doesn't, they can do that, even if we have the fair tax, it doesn't have to be part of the tax code. You buy a COVID recovery bond, you get a certain percentage return on it. It has nothing to do with the taxes. In fact, whatever you earn in interest will not be taxed so under the fair tax.
Okay, well, all of this craziness that the Congress critters just cannot resist monkeying with the tax code, as we look at every other week here on FAIRtax Power Radio. The point we need to make for all this is that all of this craziness goes away with the fair tax.
Yes.
You will no longer have Congress critters in there trying to establish opportunity zones for some people and not for others, giving some people tax breaks and not for others, trying to tell you what you can do with your own money relative how to do your health care. There is just so much stuff in here that needs to go away.
Yep.
Because the government doesn't do anything well, and we just need to rip out every bit. And again, next week we're going to look at some things that actually have made it into the tax code. These are just proposals. I don't know which ones are going to make it in and which ones aren't. But the whole idea is that this tax code we've got is just so incredibly stupid. I'll use that word.
It is.
Just and we the people are incredibly, whatever the word would be here, to allow this to continue.
Yeah.
We have just simply got to replace all of this junk with the fair tax, and we will keep trying until we get it done.
Yep.
And
we need to move along here because we've still got some stuff to do.
Jim Bennett has a nice little spotlight to shine on somebody this week.
Jim Bennett is director for AFFT, Americans for Fair Taxation, and he is the grassroots coordinator, and he puts out a report every week. If you sign up at fairtax.org and give them your contact information, you won't be harassed. I mean, you won't get spam, but then you'll get Steve Hayes' chairman's report, Jim's Grassroots Corner, and a short update for FAIRtax Power Radio too. This one is for the week ending October 2nd. How did we get Kevin Kahn and Mark Porta? Okay, now I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I encourage you to look it up. You can go to fairtax.org, click news at the top, and you'll see this here. Okay. We got word that Libertarian candidate for Congress from 1st Congressional District in Ohio, which turns out to be Cincinnati, wanted to sign the FAIRtax candidate pledge. We couldn't let them down, but as it turned out, they didn't have a volunteer in that area. So, to make a long story short, what they did was they said, all right, how are we going to do this? He wants to sign the pledge. We definitely want him to do this. So somebody, I don't know if it was Adam Yomtov or whoever's, Adam is the guy who manages the database, the national database. And he said, well, let's look for somebody in the Cincinnati area who has donated to the FAIRtax.
Yeah, I think
we might be able to talk them into it.
That was Adam's idea.
Yep. And so Mark Porta is the person that they asked, and he said, sure. So they got a nice picture of Mark having Kevin Kahn, candidate for Congress, signing the FAIRtax pledge. And the whole thing is about what FAIRtax volunteers can do, okay? They didn't have to spend any money. I mean, they could email him the form and so forth, take a picture. All this is very simple. So there's a lot of things that volunteers can do, and we appreciate the fact that a lot of people are still working full-time and raising a family, and you don't have a lot of time. Bob and I are retired. We can devote more time to the FAIRtax, but if you're working, your family comes first. We understand that. But there are some simple things you can do. And it also brings up to me, unfortunately, we have to tell you about another loss of a great FAIRtax volunteer.
Yes, Jim has done several grassroots corners in the past several weeks, spotlighting FAIRtax volunteers who have checked out of this world. But this one's a little more personal. We knew this guy.
It is, yeah. Nick Rudelic. Nick and Barb Rudelic were the people that got my wife and I involved, and Bob knows them too. Nick... We've got a lot of great volunteers across the country, but since we knew Nick closely and worked very closely with him, I've never seen anybody who put more time and energy. Yes, he was retired, all right? He was a school teacher at one time. He was a businessman. He was a salesman. He left education, went into sales. He was an award-winning salesman because he was always thinking of ways to promote his business. And then he actually ran his own business. I believe he had a paving business, and he hired a bunch of people. So he worked in both the public sector and the private sector. So he really understood how the FAIRtax would help people. And he was very energized, okay? When my wife and I got into it 11 years ago, these are the people that brought us along and taught us a lot. We read the books, but there's nothing like going and talking to people and answering questions and asking Nick and Barb and so forth. They were our mentors, okay? Unfortunately, Nick succumbed. He had a heart issue and so forth, and he had some other problems for the last couple of years. And after a long illness, he died on October 2nd. But I want to do a short tribute.
I tell you what, I didn't know him quite as well as you and Elaine did, but the one thing that just impressed me the most about him, I can describe him in one word: gung-ho.
Oh, absolutely.
I tell you what, he got into stuff. He decorated stuff with FAIRtax stuff on it. That he had more FAIRtax stuff than anybody I've ever known, and he made FAIRtax stuff out of normal everyday kind of things.
That's right. Yeah. And when Florida FAIRtax was a fledgling organization and didn't even have a promotional store, okay, Nick and Barb, if they needed campaign buttons and we couldn't get them in the store, they just ordered them themselves. All right, they bared the cost of, because they knew that these were good things to give out at public events where you're telling people about the FAIRtax. They did have some cards. The Florida FAIRtax did provide these, but there was all kinds of things. Now, for those of you listening on the podcast, I really encourage you to take a look at the video, which you can find on Facebook, YouTube, FAIRtaxGuys.com, all kinds of places. We're on Rumble now. I've got I haven't even told you about this, but Rumble is an alternative to YouTube where they don't censor you, okay? So we're on there also.
Parler as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. And so we're on lots of places, so I encourage you to take a look
at our own, FAIRtaxGuys.com, check that out.
Yep. So there's a picture of Nick and Dave O'Dwyer. Dave O'Dwyer was another volunteer. Unfortunately, we lost him a couple of years ago. Who was in business. He was a business owner and an executive and so forth. Really knew his stuff. Okay, so now Nick and a fellow by the name of Jerry Hammett here in Florida, they had the idea back in 2010. We got all these leftover political signs after the election. I wonder if they wouldn't mind if we took their lumber and put our own FAIRtax signs on them.
Okay.
These two started the FAIRtax mini billboard sign, and we ended up putting over 150 of these things around Florida. And it was Nick and Jerry Hammett that started the whole thing, okay? And I remember going out with Nick and Barb, various places to put up these things, 4x8 billboard advertising the FAIRtax. Nick and Barb were always involved in some presentation. They eventually got us into doing presentations and so forth. And Dave O'Dwyer sometimes joined us, and it usually ended up after the presentation going to dinner someplace.
Yeah, he knew where all the Dunkin' Donuts were from.
Oh my God, Nick was a fanatic about Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, and I remember one monthly meeting that we had here in Ocala, and it was Nick's 80th birthday, so we gave him a birthday cake, celebrating him, of course, with his FAIRtax gear on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Now, at one point, Nick decided that going to meetings and doing presentations wasn't enough. So he bought a PT Cruiser, a beautiful little gold-colored PT Cruiser, FAIRtax logos all over it, side, hood, lift gate, everywhere except the roof, all right? And they drove this everywhere. They had it in parades. They had it at events where they could set it up next to the information booth. Mm-hmm. It was a very attractive little car.
Yeah, okay? That was the little one, though. Let me show you the big one.
Yeah. So, I mean, they had it everywhere. So, at one point, because of his heart condition, his doctor said, Nick, you're going to have to scale back. You just can't be working this hard at it. So, Nick's idea of scaling back was to buy a 33-foot motorhome and put FAIRtax signs all over it, including a large QR code that you could scan, and it would take you to the website. And so they drove. The nice thing about this is they could drive like to the Panhandle and attend an event there, and then just stay in the motorhome overnight.
Well, that got Neil Bortz's attention.
Oh yeah,
Bortz has been on that vehicle.
Yep. We had a town hall. Well, actually, there's a picture. They had the motorhome, their golf cart, all dressed up with FAIRtax, the PT Cruiser, which I called the FAIRtax Cruiser because they have FAIRtax. All right, but yeah, we had not only Neil Bortz, but we had Ted Yoho, who's where our studio is in Ted Yoho's district. He's retiring from Congress in a few months, okay? And we also had Neil Bortz. There was a debate. A debate in Sarasota, and Neil Bortz attended the debate, and we had a picture of Nick and Barb and Neil was signing a book for them, all right? And up in Niceville, we had there was an event up there, and there's a lady dressed up as Rosie the Riveter. So there's a picture of Nick and Barb with Rosie the River inside the motorhome, which we came to call the Florida FAIRtax Mobile Command Center.
Indeed. Well,
and
I'll tell you what.
Even when he had a stroke and needed to use a walker, he had FAIRtax signs all over his walker.
Yeah, the guy was enthusiastic about the FAIRtax, no doubt about it.
Unbelievable. Like I said, I've never seen. We have great volunteers, but I've never seen anybody look at.
We need to pass that in honor of Nick here.
Yep. So that's right. So, anyways, another PT Cruiser. He decided he could not be without some kind of vehicle with FAIRtax, so he bought another PT
that's
Cruiser.
A different one.
Yep, that one was a little newer, but Nick, we will miss you. We appreciate it. I've learned a lot from you. We are better for having known you, and we're here to support Barb too, because she's a good friend of ours. But Nick Rudelic, you will be missed.
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully that's the last, fair tax are going on thing we have to do in quite a while.
Yeah,
here.
I hope so. I hope so.
Man, we done used up just about all our time here. We're going to do an extended call to action. Well, I guess we got about the same amount of time that we normally have to encourage people who think the fair tax is a good idea, who are tired of all of the stuff that the Congress critters are doing to the tax code, both the proposals that we looked at and the stuff that's actually gotten through. We need to jerk every bit of that out by the roots, replace the entire income tax with the fair tax, meaning withholding goes away, the payroll taxes go away, the IRS goes away, tax returns go away.
Oh, yeah.
You do your federal taxes at the cash register anonymously, and that's end of story. And I don't know anybody of any political persuasion that would not like, and you get a tax refund every month as well.
Yep.
Anybody would not like that. That's just what we need to do to make the fair tax happen.
It will simplify our lives by getting rid of all the hassle we have. I mean, think of how much time, spend a few minutes, think of how much time of yours is spent because of the income tax code.
Yep.
Record keeping and so forth.
Yep.
It's nuts.
So join AFFT. Go to fairtax.org. You can sign up to get the chairman's report of the Grassroots Corner. And we need you to sign up as a member of AFFT. What are the membership dues? Kind of whatever you want them to be.
Yeah, exactly.
There is no set amount that you have to pay to join the group, because they think just having the numbers is more important. Of course, we do need the funds as well, but having the numbers is more important, because then we can go up to the Congress critters and say, look, we've got millions and millions of people in our organization, and we want you to get rid of the income tax. And when they look at that many people, I think we better pay attention to these guys.
Yeah, that's right. And if you believe that the fair tax is really what this country needs, then maybe you'll join the 1040 Club, in which you commit to sending $10.40 a month to the AFFT. Those recurring donations are very important to them.
Yeah, tell your friends and family about Fair Tax Power Radio, all the different places they can get it, Facebook and Parler and Rumble and all the podcast, Apple, iHeartRadio and all those places, and on the terrestrial radio in Winston-Salem at WTOB and Statesville at WAME and WLSC, Loris, South Carolina. And Bob Scarborough says he's just about to get us a couple more places as well.
Yeah, that's exciting. Mum's the word until we know for sure.
Until we know exactly where they are. We'll just say he's working on it. Hopefully we'll have something to announce on that right quickly. Go to Popvox. Tell the Popvox world that you like HR 25.
Oh, yeah. And if you see any other tax proposals on there, you can add a comment on why it's a bad idea, and the fair tax is the best idea.
That it is.
And don't forget our new fair tax logo store. It is fairtaxstore.org. Simply fairtaxstore.org. All right. They don't have as many items as they had before, but they have some good promotional items that allow you to show your support for the fair tax.
And that's going to wrap it up. Congratulations to our contest winners, Ted Davis, Chuck Livermore, and Carl Frankenfeld. Till we meet again, I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
FAIRtax Guys reminding you again that the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
So tell me how it works.
You know, it's probably changed since the last time I saw it, but the short answer would be, you want to take this one?
Oh, sure. Okay. Imagine bringing home everything you make. You don't get taxed for saving or accumulating wealth, and your boss doesn't get taxed more even if he pays you more.
Wow, now see, that's amazing.
So the end result of all that is the cost of producing products and running a business goes down, so things cost less. And on top of all that, imagine every criminal, non-citizen, and under-the-table worker also paying taxes.
That's amazing.
That's the fair tax. We tax what you consume as you consume it, and that's it.